You should be the host here.
We're laughing at you.
We're both Munster people, diehard Munster people, and we want them to do well.
The Red 78 with Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs. Nobody knows Munster rugby better.
I'd like to think I know a lot. Welcome along to episode 9 of the Red 78, your go-to podcast for everything Munster rugby. I'm Alan Quinlan, and alongside me, as always, is Niamh Briggs. For everything Munster rugby, this is the place to be, and we want you to be involved. Let us know what your thoughts are and what the latest Munster rugby happenings by tweeting us at Rugby Channel 15 or by leaving a comment wherever you're watching this across the Rugby Channel's social media pages. And of course, subscribe to the podcast. Just search for the Red 78 and you get the podcast straight to your phone every week. There was a lot of uncertainty, and there still is some uncertainty last week. Things are marginally a little bit clearer. And we're finally going back to preview a match. To do that, we brought in someone very, very familiar with this Wasps and Munster matchup. Munster legend, a former teammate, Rob Henderson. Welcome to the podcast, Rob, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Quinny. Thanks, Niamh. Great to be here.
Great to have you.
It's a bit of a strange one, as we were saying, Rob, with everything that's happened with teams in South Africa, Scarlets, Munster, Cardiff, Zebra, the whole uncertainty. This is European week, and something that we always loved as players with Munster. We had a real close bond with the European Cup. It excited us. It was a totally different week, wasn't it? Your time at Munster, my time. I just remember the excitement bouncing into training on a Monday morning. And it was kind of special European rugby to Munster.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, this match has thrown up some brilliant games in the past, and obviously for various reasons, it's going to be difficult for both sides. But I mean, actually, when I was at London Irish, even prior to Wasps and Munster, the one result that made me weak at the knees laughing was when Wasps came down to Thomond Park, and it was a miserable, drizzly day in '96, I think it was. And the ball just kept getting hoofed up on Gareth Rees and Johnny Upton. And of course, we don't hear anything until the result comes in, and Munster hockey Wasps, which was fantastic for when I was at London Irish. So that was my first introduction to this particular game, and really into that European rugby.
You joined Wasps on a week later, the year after, didn't you?
Well, in the January. So it was funny. I was bottom of the league in December, and we won the league in June. So I went from the bottom to the top, got a nosebleed and a winner's medal, a couple of tries along the way, a couple of pork pies. And
you made all the difference. You talk about those games and you mention them. There's not many between Munster and Wasps. I was surprised. Some teams we played against, like the Cass match the week after. We've always played Cass, haven't we? Wasps, there hasn't been that many, but there is one that unfortunately, from Munster's point of view, they lost, that stands out as some people say it was one of the greatest games of all times. Lawrence Delalio, in his book, one of the greatest games he's ever been involved in, and that's coming from someone who's involved in so many big international games, British and Irish lines. Sean Edwards said after the game, best game he's ever seen. Now, it was easy for the Wasps players and management to probably say that after, in 2004 Heineken Cup semi-final, as it was called at the time. Wasps win 37-32. You played in that game. Just bring us back and take us back to the memories of that. Obviously, I didn't play. I was injured. David Wallace was injured as well. Rog went off in the first half with a hamstring injury. Mm-hmm. We were heartbroken after that because, again, we were quite close to, getting our hands on the Holy Grail. You played in that. Just take us back to the memories of that game. Do you think it was one of the greatest games you were ever involved in?
Well, many newspapers have called it the greatest club game ever, and actually the way that the league changed hands multiple times. Obviously, they were English champions. They were coming to Thomond Park, into Landsdowne Road. 49,500 supporters there, and probably 200 of them were Wasps fans. So they're up against it. I remember in the weeks leading up to that game, because obviously I was a bit of chat with the other lads as well. Trevor Leota, the hooker, who by the way did drop the ball over the line in the 7th minute, so it wasn't a try though, cheating.
I watched it this morning, and how it was given as a try is beyond me.
Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I tell him every time I speak to him that he's a cheating fecker. But anyway, So about 2 weeks previously, his wife had left him. And basically that was Lawrence Delalio's team talk. I've been in the change room 5 years with the lads, and then he'd get everyone really wound up and all the rest of it, and there'd be passion and sweat and spit and snot and tears and all the rest of it. And he just turned around and he's got them so wound up. He said, "Trevor, your wife may have left you. We're your family now. You lean on us." So you've got 22 lads in the change room, all in tears, and Trevor bounced off the wall. I think he gave away the first 6 penalties. But no, going into the game, obviously we're playing at Landsdowne Road, and we think that we had a good team and we were playing well as well. And obviously we had a great chance of getting to another final, and unfortunately that didn't translate. I mean, Rog going off in 33 minutes. I think bringing on the speed merchant Dutchy Holland, just for the gas, but he played brilliantly, and it was one of the things actually talking to Delalio afterwards. He said you completely ruined our game plan because we were just trying to keep Rog on the field. So when he went off and Dutchy came on, it changed the game. Lead changed hands. We're 10 points up with 15 minutes to go. Actually, in fairness, we might have had a bit of fortune with one of the tries. If you look at it again, might have been a knock forward, but I don't think so. And then, unfortunately, the worst part of that game, Quinny, I think Donica got yellow carded, and then with about 6 minutes to go, I got yellow carded, which was completely wrong. I mean, I've never been yellow carded in my life, so these people just weren't obviously watching the rules or the laws or whatever it is with the game. And then, as we've already said, Trevor going over in the corner and winning the match for them in a horrific act of cheating. It's happened to us previously in the Heineken Cup with Neil back. So we've had a 7 do it to us. We've had a 2 do it to us. And it was going to be 24 months of bitterness before we actually lifted the trophy against Biarritz.
An unbelievable story. I think when I watched back this morning, because Quinny had teed me up, and that Wasps team were absolutely stacked when you think about it. How many of them had won the World Cup the previous year? We know obviously Lawrence Delalio was their big talisman, but when you look at like Simon Shaw was playing, Joe Worsley was playing, Josh Lucy was playing, like they had threats all over the pitch.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Niamh. There was not just threats all over the pitch, but there was a match we played previously, and we might come on to it later, against Stade Francais away. You might have been playing this one, Quinny, and they always come out with a calendar. So they've got a calendar of all the lads, buff and ripped and oiled and muscular and all this carry on. And do you remember Clark in the team room? Lads, in fairness, sexy lads.
Claude thought they were in really good shape, but we had that a lot in France, didn't we? I remember in Bordeaux in 2000 when we rocked up for the team run on the day before the game on the Friday, the famous semi-final win over Toulouse, and we turned up in the baggy tracksuits and baggy t-shirts and stuff, and the Toulouse guys were just after finishing, and they just kind of strolled off the field, and they looked like chiseled. They looked like monsters, tight gear. We were all wearing the baggy, oversized T-shirts that, Decky had given us a new T-shirt for the semi-final as well. He used to kind of drip feed the gear to us if we won matches, and we got these new O'Neill's T-shirts, and they were hanging off us, no sizes, and we looked like an amateur team, and these guys strolled off. They were massive, and then obviously... Well, it didn't make a difference because the performance the next day was brilliant. But in fairness, you talk about Stade Francais; they were in good shape. In fairness,
exactly. But that was the point. That was the point I was going to say to you, Niamh. That when they're stacked with World Cup winners. I mean, I played with 10 of that squad anyway. But we're standing out on the field in the heavy jerseys, where if you sweat a bit, you're putting an extra 5 kilos on. And these lads come out wearing the skin tight gear, which looks like a tattoo, and you're thinking, "Oh Jesus, this could be a tough day at the office."
Class.
Just on the Sean Edwards piece, he's someone who kind of I've loved Sean Edwards over the years because I just love his passion and his energy, and for him saying that was the best game he's ever seen, and I thought that was incredible. Obviously, Munster were really disappointed, but you played with a lot of these Wasps players, Hendo, and the game changes every couple of years with different things around the breakdown or or defensive setups and all that kind of thing. They were the first ones to really adopt this kind of blitz defense, which was kind of from the wingers up. They come in this kind of umbrella kind of angle with unbelievable pace. You had to deal with that day. What was that like? Was it something that obviously we'd watched and done some analysis on it, but it must have been very difficult as a centre for you and Mikey Mullins to do anything you wanted to do, because your biggest strength obviously was, getting the ball in your hands and running hard. You had evasion, you could go past people, but they cut all our space down that day, didn't they?
Well, they did, and I think if you look at the try scorers on the day, both forwards for ourselves, there was limited space in the middle of the park. It was a roasting hot day as well. It was a beautiful day, but when you've got Paul Volley flying off the back of the line, no more than yourself, Quinny, when you've got your back row cutting down that space and then just everyone flying out the line with their hair on fire, and we weren't really used to that. We adapted, and Rog and Dutchie played fantastically well with the kicking game and territory, because let's face it, back in 03-04, the power of Munster, we had a great squad, don't get me wrong, with forwards and backs. Christian Cullen played that day, an unbelievable all-back, but the strength of Munster rugby has always been, and there's no denying it, the big boys up front, and putting you guys into position, and watching how the Munster pack took on the Wasps pack was impressive, and there was lots of standout performances in there. Stephen Keogh, I thought was brilliant that day, and you've played with and against him, Quinny, so you know his.
You have to say though, and Stephen won't mind this, that Wally and myself were a big loss that day. Yeah, were you getting to that, Hendo?
It was coming. It was
okay.
Coming.
Great stuff. Carry on.
you never give away the script line at the start, do you? It's a spoiler alert. Yeah,
just in relation to Munster's DNA has always been about the power, the forward pack, the maul, the set piece. When you've obviously played for Munster, played for Wasps. Is there a difference in the culture, in that environment, in what their DNA is like that's continued on? Like, I feel like Wasps probably maybe have lost themselves a little bit with all the moves between the venues and everything like that. But if you had to say that one thing was in their DNA, like, what would it be coming up to this weekend?
They're super professional. They really are. And when I moved from London Irish, I remember going to a training camp, and all the boys were up in this atrium doing their weights, and I've got to do a bleep test down below, and I think I got to 6'2" before, and I was going to organise an open top bus around Thames Ditton, where I was living at the time, because it was a BB, and they're all looking down. So you've got Delalio and all the boys, Will Green, Alex King, going, who on earth have we brought here? Look, the state of that yoke, right? So, but they're very, very professional. And I don't think the moves has helped them.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've moved from Sudbury to Loftus Road to Wickham, and now Coventry, and they've kind of got a base up there. But even with 18 injuries or whatever they've got, it's interesting. It'd be interesting to see how the two squads compare and compete and contrast this weekend when they're fully. They haven't won since October.
Yeah.
Do you know? So it's not as if this Wasp team are the powerhouse of old. I think they've won 3 and they've lost 6 in the league this year. And the last 2, I think, were to Gloucester and Worcester, who they would normally turn over.
Yeah, I watched the Worcester game the weekend. And on the ball, they look, like Quinny will talk about it later on, but on the ball, they look exceptionally quick, powerful. Like, that was it. But they definitely leak a lot of tries, and hopefully Munster can make hay in that weekend.
Absolutely.
Would you still have a close connection with the club, Rob? I look at your pinned tweet on Twitter says playing for Munster is different. It reminds me of my early days in the game before we started getting paid. The reason you were playing rugby was for each other and for the club and for the people who came and supported you. And that's exactly the same ethos that Munster have now. So I know that you have this great affinity with Munster, and you're one of us, essentially. What kind of feelings do you have for Wasps? Do you still have? Are they part of that club still in your blood and in your body and your soul as well? Because you played with them for a long period.
Well, the simple thing is, I played for London Irish for 5 years. I played for Wasps for 5 years. I played for Munster for 5 years. And since I retired, I haven't been to a London Irish game. I haven't been to a Wasps game, and I've been to about 20 Munster matches. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but I know where you stand as regards Munster. I'm not questioning that. But like, what's, you know, the connection with Wasps? Even if London Irish were playing Munster, do you feel a connection with those clubs because you played with them?
Honestly, no. No, I mean, they're great clubs. They're great clubs. Wasps are a fantastic club. London Irish are a fantastic club. And the thing that made them fantastic clubs, similarly to Munster, and obviously I went down to France for the love of the game.
Yeah.
At the end of but the one thing that all four clubs, including Toulon, had was great support. Great support. And to me, that's what a club is about. A club is about not just the product that you're putting on the field, but it's the people that follow you. And the people that follow you in the good times and the bad, and obviously of all of those teams, Munster has to have the best support in Europe, if not any club side in the world. And it was a pleasure and an honour and a privilege to play for Munster for so long.
And going back to that game, maybe touching on it, Warren Gatland is the coach, so you were quite close with Gatty with Ireland as well, and he's a short time before that. Got let go by Ireland. He wasn't happy. He wasn't pleased with the way it happened. And then he gets the Wasps job, and you had something to do with that. So maybe it's your fault that Wasps beat Munster in that game because you put Gatty in charge. Tell us about that story.
So obviously Gatty was in charge. He took the reins in, I think, 98 with Ireland. Taking into account he was 34 when he took the reins, and I think there was a couple of players older than him. And he's the head coach. But anyway, he started the ball rolling, and for whatever reason, parted ways with the RFU. And I stayed friendly with Gatty, and he came down. He was in Limerick in my local pub, Charco's. Hiya, Rob. I hope you're well and I hope you're watching this. And basically, we were sitting down having a couple of pints, asking what he's going to do next. He says, "I'll take my time." And I knew that Nigel Melville was leaving Wasps to go to Gloucester. So I said, "Would you have any interest in the Premiership?" At which point he said, "Yeah, I probably would, actually." So I rang Melly. I said, "Melly, I'm sitting here with Gatty having a pint. Do you want a word with him?" And basically, the two of them figured it out, and Warren went over, and then the rest is history, as they say.
And he did a brilliant job there. In fairness, they loved him, and he built a management team around him, and had brilliant success. They won the Premiership. They won European Cups. They were knocking on the door for years, and it probably led to elevated his status in the game, didn't it? That success with Wasps. But some of those players, as you say, Lawrence Delalio, Howley, Lucy, Simon Shaw, they're brilliant players. He had a good crop of players, but he got them fit as well. He brought Craig White with him, who worked with Ireland, and did a brilliant job. And they loved him in Wasps, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, he did really well. I mean, you asked me earlier on about the where the ties are. Actually, Wasps 10 years later, when they were having their 10-year anniversary of winning the Heineken Cup, as it was, they invited me along, and this just shows the type of langers they are. They gave me a posthumous medal for being yellow carded, and giving Trevor the overlap in the corner. So I didn't stay long, but no, he built a good coaching, good players, good ethos, good support. That's what makes a club so.
Where were you, Niamh, when that match happened in 2004? Were you at it, or did you watch it? Or
no, I was very young, Quinny.
I absolutely know that. Yeah, I know that.
No, I watched it. I watched it with my dad. Definitely, yeah. We would have been. We definitely watched it at home, which is unusual because my dad would have usually been at them, to be fair. But rugby wasn't hugely on my radar by 2004. So, but you know the way. So. You're probably infamous in relation to how much you enjoyed yourself both on and off the pitch, if that makes any sense, Rob, in terms of your ability to be able to live the best of your life in terms of being a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you'd enjoy playing today in terms of how strict and stringent everything seems to be in relation to probably training, social media, all that kind of stuff?
No chance.
Yeah.
No chance. I mean, social media wouldn't bother me. I'm not on Facebook or any of that carry on. I think the only reason I've got a Twitter account is because I had to set it up for a corporate gig about 10 years ago. And as you can see, I don't really use it. I use it every now and again, in fairness. But no, I mean, these guys now, they're so much under the microscope, and I'm not sure that leaving the Glen of the Downs at 6:30, getting a taxi into into Coppers and then climbing back through the upstairs windows at 3 o'clock in the morning when you've got national duty. I don't think you get away with that now. So, so these boys are they're under fierce pressure, and girls are under fierce pressure, and it's such under the spotlight at the moment. That rugby players in general have got to mind what they do, what they say, what they eat. So maybe a little bit of the old school has got out of the game, but that doesn't make it a worse product nowadays. I just think that everyone nowadays is a cookie cutter player. So everyone's 6'3", everyone's 16 stone, everyone does the 111.5, and I think that we've lost our way a little bit. Yeah. It used to be a game for everybody, and now, unfortunately, players are getting selected on physical attributes as opposed to rugby attributes. So I'd be goosed in both ways because I couldn't pass the ball. The best
you could run though. You could run. If we got you fit, you were brilliant.
Oh Jesus! Downhill with the wind, that was amazing.
yeah. Rob, if you look at you talk about the pressure on professional athletes nowadays and the scrutiny, it's massive. And sometimes we get accused because I work in the media for our legacy. The teams that won European Cups, that got to semi-finals and finals. And I genuinely believe it's unfair that the current group continuously, for a number of years, get compared with that. It's different, different players. We had a unique group of players. There was less pressure back in the day on us to win, and we were building something all the time, and eventually we got there. Do you think that pressure is a little bit unfair on the current players at times? Because to win European Cups has become, even though we felt that it was incredibly hard, I think there's so many teams now trying to win it and getting better, and you just got to keep improving all the time. And there's a lot of pressure on these guys continuously. Sometimes it's fair, the criticism, and sometimes a little bit unfair. What's your take on it?
Well, it depends who's commentated on the game.
That's it. So expand on that comment.
No, I mean these boys and girls nowadays, they're under so much pressure. They are, but let's face it, they're getting paid properly as well. And as the game has evolved in that commercial aspect, you are going to be under pressure. People are getting paid a lot of money, and you're meant to be able to do the basics correctly. Now, I think everyone's been given a pass for the last 18 months due to restrictions and travel and support, COVID, et cetera, et cetera. There you go. I promised myself I wasn't going to use that C word, but I just did. So it's been difficult. But in general, these guys and girls have got nothing left to chance. They've got the opportunity to train. They've got the opportunity to be the best physically. They're being coached on and off the field from a PR perspective. And to be honest with you, Quinny, I reckon that if someone's played badly as a former player, you should be able to dig them out because you've been there, you've been in the trenches, and you know what it takes to reach peak performance. So I don't agree with commentators slagging people off just for the sake of it, to be contradictory. But if there is a genuine error that needs to be solved, then fill your boots.
But just do Munster need to win a trophy? That pressure is with them every year? Well,
of course it is. It's when you're the best supported club in Europe, and when the following is faultless and doesn't waver, then there is such a desire and a sense of encouragement, longing for the club to actually win something tangible because of the days gone by. I mean, you have a look at in any sport, there are teams that have peaks and troughs, and unfortunately, this is a bit of a fallow time for Munster. But I mean, this weekend is a great opportunity for some young fellas to put their hand up and stake a claim and represent the jersey with the pride and passion that hundreds, thousands have done so beforehand, and really put themselves in the window for next season, and give the supporters a view of what's coming down the line and what the youth are going to look like and who will be following in the next 2, 3, 4 years. So I think this weekend is a great opportunity. And would I love to see Munster win a trophy? Absolutely. And as soon as we get to a final, I will be on the Charabang. I'll be on the glory bus.
You'll be over, yeah. And in fairness, both Niamh and yourself are Spurs fans. So as Roy Keane said a few weeks ago, you're used to disappointment.
Well, I'm a Spurs, Niamh, I'm a Spurs fan, not a football fan.
And he's like John Hayes. He doesn't go to watch any rugby unless it's a jolly or a day out. And in fairness, he brings Lawrence Delalio with him over to the Irish games and some of the Munster games over the years. Come here, I have to ask you about the current group. And Niamh and I were speaking about it, how difficult it is for the boys in South Africa quarantining. The group of 34 that came home to Ireland, they're in quarantine as well. It's just a crazy couple of weeks. And something that's unprecedented. And of course, the pandemic is going on and people are in worse situations. But I thought about the isolation and being kind of locked away with players and not being able to leave a hotel and segregated. And I thought Rob Henderson would love that because he get his card school going. He gave me cards. You love the cards. I remember the quarterfinal in 2004, I was rooming with David Wallace. Again, I was still injured because I'd injured my shoulder in the World Cup in the previous October. The one you didn't get selected for that one, Rob, but that was the one where I saved Irish rugby. You remember I scored that try?
I was selected for that one, but I was injured actually. It was the one in '99 where I didn't get selected.
99, yeah. Well, you were better off. You missed that one anyway.
It was myself and Axel that got dropped off the 33-man panel to 31. Myself and Axel, God love him.
And I got called in late for the Lons debacle against Argentina. But anyway, the quarterfinal, I'm rooming with David Wallace. I'm not under any pressure because I'm not playing. I'm not even togging out. I'm doing a bit of a fitness session on Saturday morning with Fergal O'Callaghan and the fitness coach. And Wally arrives back into the room at 6:30 in the morning. And it's a 1 o'clock kickoff, the quarterfinal against Stade Francais in Paris. And Wally arrives in at 6:30, and I was like, where the hell have you been? What is going on? I was shocked of Wally of all people. And I thought maybe they went out and something went wrong or there was an accident or something. He said, no, we were playing cards and we just couldn't leave it. Hendo was leading the charge. Was Christian Cullen there, Frankie, Miko, Dutchy, Holland, and yourself. Remind us of that. Like, how can you play cards till 6:30, then go out and beat Stade and all of you actually played really well?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Wally was actually just hamming it up. That never happened. So what happened was we were in bed at 7 and we'd just actually gone training at 5 in the morning. So he was just coming back from that pre-match.
Okay, right.
So, but he didn't want to say that because then he'd look a bit lame. So he just said that he was up all night playing cards in room 216 with myself with the doors shut in the heat, down to the boxer shorts, and Mick O'Driscoll having a heart attack because he keeps losing.
What? How in God's name? I remember being at breakfast and there was little whispers of the card game that went on. And I remember saying, I hope these boys play well today because if this gets out, they're going to get slaughtered.
Well, in fairness, I think that was one of the first quarterfinal victories that we'd had on French soil. And Stade were playing really well that year. And we played on the pitch out the back with the running track around it. A couple of things. Hoggy scored a try that day, and I think we won by only a couple of points. But coming off the field, Claw he'd obviously gone over and played for Queensland, and the Queensland coach was coaching Stade at the time, John
Conley,
yeah. So John comes up to Claw. I'd met John previously as well, and geez, Claw, how's it going, mate? Good match today. And he looked at me, and I can't say the word he used, so he said, Jesus, Hendo, have you eaten a cow? That's all he said.
But you played well, though. You played well. It didn't matter.
Well, in fairness, sometimes you don't need skills. You just need a roundabout in the middle of the field to knacker out people.
Yeah, and just skip around them. Hendo, we can't stay too much longer because we're under time constraints. Who's going to win on Sunday? Would you love to be a Munster player now? Niamh was with them last week. Ian Costello, the academy manager, who was with Wasps for a couple of years, knows them inside out. She was down watching the academy players and 8 or 9 internationals training last week. What would you think if you were there? That this is real backs to the wall stuff, isn't it?
Well, hang on. I think, Niamh, if we can bring you in and tell us what it was like with the guys and how they were preparing and what they looked like.
Yeah, to be fair, I think I was just saying to Quinny last week, blew me away. Peter O'Mahony blew me away in terms of leadership. He never made a mistake the whole session, literally. And what I loved about it is so there was a NTS, so it's a group underneath the academy, sub-academy, academy boys, and those 8 or 9 internationals, whatever it is. He made sure he spoke to every single one. Like, for me, that was class. I think because he drove the session, it was brilliant. It was brilliant to watch. It was, they were literally like 8 or 9 mini coaches on the pitch. And that's the best way to describe it. And he empowers them to be able to share the information. And yeah, look, it was cool to be there, cool to observe it, but also it makes you realize in terms of, like, it's going to be a big task for them, like, especially in the pack. You know, the back line is pretty stacked. So you've got Conor Murray, Delande, Chris Farrell's back, Keith Earls is there. You know, there's a lot of Andrew Conway, really good players. Whereas in that pack, you know, you're looking at probably O'Mahony and Tyke Byrne, and then after that, then it's going to be made up of youngsters, really, unless, you know, these lads come out of isolation and they decide to play them. But it was just blew my mind how much they got on with it. I love the fact that they didn't complain.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, it's not a bad 2 to have in the pack, is it?
No, well, Dave Kilcoyne as well.
Killer, yeah, sorry, he was there, yeah.
So they've 3, but that is the concern. And Scarlets have forfeited a game this week against Bristol for safety reasons, I think, and it's understandable. You know, they're only out of quarantine on Friday, and then they're supposed to travel to Bristol. So you've got to prepare for these matches. So look, I just think for Munster, who knows? Wasps have a lot of injuries themselves. They've their form recently hasn't been great, but realistically, Wasps should be the ones winning this game. But I don't know, that Munster thing inside me just thinks I'd love to be rolling up the sleeves and bringing out a couple of young lads on the field and saying, let's give it a crack.
Absolutely. I mean, that backs against the wall mentality has carried Munster through on numerous occasions, and just that cohesion and that togetherness. And I think with Peter and Killer and Tig, and if they can bring the young fellas on and the younger players that are getting their first taste of European rugby or limited, as long as they keep the top. We always had a phrase, Quinny. It was body on fire but head in the fridge. So as long as they don't let the game get away from them.
And I used to get those ones mixed up. I used to get head on fire and body in the fridge.
Yeah.
No.
I used to have Silk Up Purple on fire and head in the fridge.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the point. But no, I mean, they've got an opportunity, and they're playing against a Wasp team low on confidence. They've lost, as I said, they've not won since October. They've got 18 players missing themselves. So I just think that this is written that there's a possible another fantastic Munster away victory in the Heineken Cup that hopefully people will be talking about for years to come. So every confidence, every faith.
Okay, Rob, brilliant to talk to you. Thank you for joining us, and look forward to seeing you at one of these jollies or games or celebrating. And hopefully in our time, we'll see these guys in the next couple of years, hopefully soon, lifting a trophy, because that pressure is always there in them, unfortunately. Great to have played with you. Great to have chatted with you on this. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. And Niamh, Quinny, I look forward to buying you both a pint next time I'm over.
Cheers, Hendo.
The Munster Rugby Podcast. Red 78 with Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs. Nobody knows Munster rugby better.
Well, that was interesting, Niamh, having Rob on there. He's certainly a character, and recounting that match, having watched it back, you watched it back as well. I watched it back. What a game. Action, exhilarating, all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure we'll see the same on Sunday. It'd be great if we were looking back on Sunday's game from a Munster point of view, but Wasps, I think, will be, even though they're under pressure themselves with a lot of injuries, and the pressure, I suppose, to win, because they'll be expected to win. How do you see this game going? Like, or is it too early to analyse it yet because we don't have teams? But Wasps are surely the team that should win this game.
Oh, 100%. Like, it has to be on them. And you can flip that around as well in terms of they could also use this as their outlet from their Premiership woes at the moment, and the inconsistencies and the fact that they're not winning games. That, like you were saying to Rob earlier on, is that European week has a different feel, and you used to love it, and it had, you know, that kind of air. If Wasps go about that, then Munster could be in for, you know, a really, really tough day at the office. But they have to be favourites. You're talking about even though with all their injuries, they're at home. Senior players, irrelevant of whether they've signed, you know, we talk Alex McHenry's just left Munster on a short-term deal with them. They've just signed an Argentinian prop coming off the back of the Rugby Championship. They are going to be in a much better position in terms, and they can all train this week. And
it's having senior players, I think.
That's it, yeah.
I know they've gone down their depth. Dan Robson is missing, Fekitoa, Joe Launchbury, Adogwu. There's a lot of top-class players that are out, and that gives a little glimmer of hope for Munster, plus their form was, okay, we've got to wait and see what kind of Munster team gets put out. Will some of the players out of quarantine, whether that be the group in South Africa, maybe they'll be back later in the week. Will any of them, do they have to do more quarantine? We don't know. Are they allowed in the UK? The players at home that have been quarantined here, are they allowed travel? We're speculating, but it's going to be a daunting task for Munster, and one that, as I said, it's back to the wall stuff. I think it's about trying to get a performance, even if they go out with these young players and the 8 or 9 internationals. And if they lose the game, Munster, there is still opportunities with Cass home and away, and then Wasps at home. If you win 3 games, you may get out of the group winning 2 with losing bonus points. But I tell you, all eyes will be on this game on Sunday, won't it? Because people will be really intrigued by it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're in Munster, I think the biggest thing for them now is probably just the unknown. They don't have an idea of what that final squad would be because they're still waiting to get.
And Wasps probably can't analyse them either, because
exactly.
some of these guys are playing All-Ireland League, potentially who could play.
I just think it's brilliant. I think you can flip it into a real positive. No pressure, and ability to be able to see if these young players are able to make the jump, how far they are actually off and making that jump, and you're just giving them opportunity and license to play. I think as you say, like, I'm actually really, really excited for it. I cannot wait. But yeah, look, it'll be no mean task. I just think Ian Costello could be a deciding factor in this. You know, a very astute, intelligent coach, but also the fact that he knows Wasps. He's just come from Wasps. He knows them inside and out. He knows all those players that are down their depth chart. You know, he could be have a big role to play in this.
Okay, and finally, and we should mention it, and again, we spoke about Stephen Larkham last week, announcing that he's leaving at the end of the season. It's been all Munster news lately. Some of the headlines in the papers of the weekend, and yesterday were saying that Johan van Graan has been linked with Bath. I heard that. I'm sure you've heard it. It's out in the public now. It's more uncertainty that they don't really need. And again, we don't know what's happening here. Like players, I think coaches get linked with other clubs. Let's hope it's just this, because I think now more than ever, they need a bit of stability. And I hope he signs. And like I said last week, I hope Mike Prender gets the job or goes for the job. I don't even know if he has, because he's still contracted with Racing. But it's probably unnecessary news at the moment, and a little bit of uncertainty that's not helpful.
Yeah, I think it's the unease. And if you are Johan and you're Ian Flanagan, you kind of want to put that to bed as quickly as you can, because it is that uncertainty around the squad. And I think I read a really interesting fact yesterday. Johan van Graan's been here 5 years. He is one of the longest serving Munster coaches. It's mad to think that, you know, only 5 years and you're the longest serving coach. I think
there's been a lot of change in
that
Munster.
Change has not been good. It's not been good, and I think it's difficult for players and for the identity of the squad.
Coaches are the same as players, and I think we should acknowledge that you know, they're professionals as well, and they're going to be connected with other clubs, and they've got to do what's best for themselves. But you know, that uncertainty probably isn't the best thing at the moment, given that Stephen Larkham is gone. And
yeah, I hope it's not true, to be fair.
But look, it is what it is. I think but it needs to be sorted very, very, very soon, because I don't think you can go past Christmas with not knowing if your head coach is staying next year or not. I hope he stays, and I hope that bit of stability and development happens. That we're kind of waiting. We've seen glimpses of it, and we said that about the attack last week. But anyway, we'll wait and see on that one. And like I said, it's going to be an intriguing weekend. That's it for episode 9 of the Red 78. We'll be back next week to break down every minute of what we hope will be a historic away win. We're talking about hope here, Niamh, more than anything, away to Wasps. Don't forget to get in touch with your thoughts on all things Munster throughout the week, and we'll be sure to get them on next week's podcast. You can tweet us at the Rugby Channel 15 or search for the Rugby Channel on YouTube and leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe to the Red 78 wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, Niamh. Thanks again, and talk to you soon.
See you next week.
The Munster Rugby Podcast, Red 78 with Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs. Nobody knows Munster Rugby better.